There is a reason why we keep stumbling into the same old emotional traps, and that reason is not what we usually think. Today, I want to share with you a discovery made by a Vietnamese Zen master in the midst of one of the most devastating wars in history. A discovery that forever changed the way we understand why we remain entangled in cycles of anger, anxiety, and suffering. This is not some new self-help trick or a theory of positive thinking. This is ancient wisdom, tested by those who endured unimaginable pain and who found a way out, not by fighting against themselves, nor by forcing transformation. As we walk this path together, you will see why the more we try to chase away unpleasant feelings, the stronger they grow. And you will also discover a way to let them melt away, gently, naturally. Welcome to Lotus Whisper, a place where we see that freedom does not mean becoming someone else, but recognizing the peace that has always been present within us. In this very moment, as you are listening, something wondrous is unfolding across the world. In Tokyo, someone is beginning the morning with light shoulders. In London, another quietly exhales in the calm of afternoon. In New York, someone closes their eyes preparing for sleep. In Sydney, another strolls leisurely beneath the sky. We live in different time zones, different circumstances, yet share the same longing for peace. You may sit comfortably, wrap yourself in a soft blanket, or simply let your body rest wherever you are. What you are about to hear may change the way you face each difficult moment in life. I know that even without meeting you, you have tried to control your reactions. Sometimes you succeed, but the old cycles return. You have told yourself, think positive, just let go. But the more you try, the more stubborn those feelings become. At times you even scold yourself, why can't I simply choose peace? But the truth is, these recurring loops are not signs of failure. On the contrary, they are gateways to freedom, if we know how to enter. During the war in Vietnam, when bombs tore apart brothers and villages, a young monk named Thich Nhat Hanh, when turned inward toward our own heart, has the power to transform even the most difficult emotions. And the essential point is not to erase anger, fear, or sorrow. It is to transform our relationship with them until they no longer hold the power to rule our lives. The Buddha once said, resisting emotions is like trying to block a river with bare hands. The right way is to become the riverbank, steady, present, yet not carried away. You will hear of a boy who broke free from a generational cycle of inherited anger, and in doing so, not only healed himself, but seemed to ease the suffering of his ancestors. More importantly, you will touch what Thich Nhat Hanh called coming home to your true dwelling. A peace not dependent on circumstances, not swayed by moods, and untouchable by loss. This does not require you to become a monk or master complex meditation techniques. It is sustained by the simplest of practices, gentle yet powerful, ready to hold you whether you are stuck in traffic, facing a difficult family member, or lying awake in the middle of the night. So, let yourself sit still, breathe more slowly, and open your heart. For liberation does not begin by waging war on our habits, but by listening to them with compassion, as one would hold a trembling child. Now, I want to share with you the most powerful healing capacity in this life. It requires no training, no cost, yet most of us have forgotten it. It is the art of deep listening, not only hearing words, but sensing the pain behind them, the hope hidden within anger, the love trying to find its way through frustration. In Buddhist tradition, there is a name that holds the secret of transforming suffering: Avalokiteshvara, Quan Te Am, the one who listens to the cries of the world. Whether we call this presence Quan Am in Vietnamese or Guan Yin in Chinese, the essence is the same: listening with the boundless compassion of the heart. Not by supernatural powers, nor by clever solutions, but by offering a non-judging presence, we create a sacred space where transformation naturally unfolds. Thich Nhat Hanh lived this practice through the calm over explosion. Seeds of fear watered by loss and insecurity, yet also seeds of courage, steadied each time we step forward amid difficulty. Seeds of judgment, nourished by constant comparison and criticism, but alongside seeds of acceptance, blossoming each time we love someone just as they are. Which seeds sprout, spread, and shape our lives depends entirely on how we water them. Each time someone speaks to us in anger, and we respond in anger, we water the seeds of resentment in both. But when someone shows us their pain, and we respond with presence and understanding, we nurture seeds of compassion and wisdom. This is not just a beautiful teaching. It is also the way our brain trains itself, through what we choose to repeat. And to illustrate this truth, let me share with you a story. Once, in a serene monastery in the French countryside, every summer people from all over the world would gather to learn the art of mindful living. Among them was a young boy, accompanied by his little sister, both eager to explore practices that could bring peace into daily life. Yet the boy carried within him a heavy burden, one known by many children across the world. He had a painful relationship with his father. Whenever he fell and hurt himself, instead of comfort or a gentle hand, his father would scold. "Why were you so careless? Why weren't you paying attention?" Thus, alongside the sting of physical pain, the boy bore the deeper wound of feeling unprotected in his most vulnerable moments. Year after year, he secretly vowed, "When I grow up and have children, I will never be like my father. If my child falls, I will not scold. I will rush to hold them, to soothe them, to make them feel safe." This promise burned within him like a flame, fueling his determination to break free from this cruel cycle. Then one summer day, in the monastery grounds, the boy was playing while his sister and another girl climbed onto a hammock. Their laughter rang out joyfully until an accident occurred. The other girl fell hard to the ground, blood flowing from her wound. In that instant, something ready to be passed on to the next generation, if left untransformed. His father, after all, was not a bad man. He was simply a human being carrying the inherited energies of his own ancestors. Seeing this, the boy's heart softened. He no longer saw himself as a victim, but recognized that both father and son were victims of habit energy, ingrained patterns of reaction transmitted from one generation to the next, unless someone paused to transform them. His anger toward his father began to dissolve, giving way to a deep aspiration to end this cycle, not through blame or resentment, but through understanding and practice. He knew that if he did not learn to embrace and transform himself, he would hand down the same suffering to his own children. But if he could stop, choose the path of mindfulness and compassion, he would not only heal the future, but also reach backward, soothing the wounds of his ancestors who had carried this burden. With this insight, something beautiful arose. Resentment gave way to the wish to return, to take his father's hand and say, "I too carry the same energy within me, but I want us to practice together so that both of us may be free." In that moment of awakening, The boy discovered a healing path that flowed in two directions, toward the future and back toward his forebears. This story illuminates a profound truth. Transformation does not come from suppressing or rejecting what we inherit, but from the capacity to look deeply and recognize it with mindfulness. From that awareness, we learn to listen to the voices within, to the worries, the angers, the habitual impulses that arise whenever we are touched. This was also the very path that Thich Nhat Hanh discovered amid suffering and exile. When the Vietnam War tore his homeland apart, he and his monastic brothers and sisters raised their voices. "Do not shoot your brothers." It was the cry of ordinary people who did not want war, who could see the divisions imposed by outside powers, yet neither side was willing to listen. At times, in order to awaken the world to the madness of violence, monks and nuns offered their very bodies in self-immolation, not from despair, but from boundless love, like a bell sounding to rouse too before moving on. Many times he woke in the dark, unsure where he was. He had to breathe deeply and remind himself, this is such and such city, this country, this continent. The wandering wore on his soul. Night after night he dreamed of returning to his temple, climbing the familiar green hill. Yet the dream always ended before he could enter the main hall. He would awaken suddenly to the truth, still in exile, still far from everything most dear. That dream repeated, each time leaving a new crack in his heart. But through the practice of mindfulness, he came to a realization. True homeland is not a place. Homeland is a way of living, a presence we can cultivate wherever we are. With each conscious breath, each mindful step, with the full offering of attention to the present moment, Tay found his true home, a refuge that could not be taken away by circumstance, by others, or even by the storms of the mind. He developed a simple practice that became the foundation of his entire teaching. Breathing in, he said to himself, "I have arrived." Breathing out, he smiled, "I am home." Not, "One day when conditions are right, I will return," nor, "Only when I set foot again in Vietnam will I truly be present." But, "Right now, right here, in this very moment, I have arrived. I am home." He returned to the ground of his own being, to each breath, to full awareness. It was not a denial of exile, nor a pretense that longing for his homeland did not ache within him. It was the recognition that beyond all the turbulence of life, favorable or adverse, joyful or sorrowful, there is a place of peace untouched by change. The Buddha called it our true nature, the silent clarity that witnesses all experiences without being harmed by them. When Tay discovered this home within himself, the recurring dream of climbing the hill to his old temple quietly faded. He no longer suffered from the impossibility of return, even though in his depths he still longed to teach and serve his people. He had touched something that nothing could take away, the power of full presence and serenity, no matter where life carried him. This insight, without haste to change or escape it, this does not mean passively accepting injustice. It is the strength and clarity to respond with wisdom rather than merely reacting out of habit energy. When someone entrusts us with their pain, we breathe gently and listen, not only to their words, but to the beating of the heart behind those words. We do not rush to fix their problem or to change them. We simply open a safe space where their truth can unfold and be received. Within this field of acceptance and compassion, healing naturally begins to blossom. And we also practice this with ourselves. When anxiety arises, instead of avoiding it or forcing another thought upon it, we can pause and softly whisper, "Hello, my anxiety. What is it that you want to tell me?" Often, beneath unease lies love. We worry because something matters deeply to us. When we listen to emotions with gentle curiosity, they tend to transform into something easier to embrace. This is the very practice the young novice at the monastery had learned: to recognize his anger without letting it govern him. It is also the path that helped Tai transform the pain of exile into a profound understanding of freedom. And it is the same practice that can help us step out of old cycles and open a space for new possibilities. But to truly listen, we must first acknowledge a reality. Today's world has forgotten presence. We have grown accustomed to multitasking, thinking of what comes next while still in the midst of what is now, listening to reply rather than to understand. In Buddhist insight, this distraction is the very root of suffering and disconnection. When Tai spoke of the collective energy of mindfulness, he was pointing us toward an experience we can touch in the smallest moments of genuine presence. Imagine sitting beside a friend going through the difficulty of divorce. Instead of offering advice or recounting your own stories, you simply breathe and offer your full, undivided attention. In that moment, a quiet transformation happens. A safe field of energy arises, allowing hidden truths to slowly reveal themselves. Your friend may begin with complaints, but as they feel truly listened to, they may start sharing their fear of being left behind, their grief over a broken dream. Surface lies the storehouse consciousness, where all experiences, memories, and habit energies transmitted from our ancestors are kept. The boy at Plum Village carried in his storehouse the seed of his father's anger from a very young age. Each time he was scolded, that seed was watered, becoming a familiar energy that pushed him to react in the same way whenever he encountered another's mistake. Buddhism calls this the karma of habit energy. These patterns operate below the level of awareness, so even with good intentions, we often repeat the very reactions that once caused us suffering as children. What makes transformation possible is mindfulness. When the boy saw his anger arise, mindfulness helped him recognize, "This is my father's habit energy, manifesting now within me." That moment of recognition created space between the stimulus and his reaction, a space of choice. This is one of the most profound insights of Buddhist psychology. We are not our habit energies. We are the awareness that can see them. The anger is not the boy's true nature. It is simply an energy, inherited, arising and passing away in the light of mindfulness. By seeing it clearly, the boy could choose not to act upon it. And in that very choice, the strength of the habit began to dissolve. Tai's own journey through long years of exile bears witness to this truth. Unable to return to his homeland, he too felt the very human stirrings of longing and regret. His dreams of climbing the old temple hill were expressions of that deep attachment. Yet through mindfulness practice, he came to see the suffering was not caused merely by being unable to go to Vietnam, but by the idea that only in Vietnam could he truly be home. This insight did not deny the pain of exile, nor judge the longing for homeland as wrong. It simply revealed a deeper truth, that the peace and sense of belonging we seek outside have always been available in each moment, through the quality of presence and awareness. The practice of, "I have arrived, I am home," is not a mental trick, nor a positive affirmation meant to soothe oneself. It is the recognition of what is already here. Work because we long to contribute meaningfully. We worry for our health because we treasure this life. When we listen to emotions with gentle curiosity, they reveal their hidden wisdom. Anger points us to where a boundary has been crossed. Sorrow reminds us of what was precious and is now lost. Fear signals what we need to safeguard or prepare for. Emotions, instead of being obstacles to discard, become guides and illuminations. This practice does not only transform the inner world, but also reshapes our relationships. When someone speaks to us with words of blame, instead of hastily defending or striking back, we can pause and listen to the fear and the pain hidden beneath those words. Perhaps the criticism arises from a sense of not being valued. Perhaps the anger flares from helplessness in some corner of life. To recognize this does not mean we condone harmful behavior. It means we create space to respond with wisdom, rather than react from habit. The boy at Plum Village began to see that his father was simply a man carrying seeds handed down through generations, not an enemy who had inflicted wounds. With this understanding, his view of the past slowly shifted. He realized his father's harsh reactions had likely come from the grandfather, and further back still, from a long line of ancestors who never knew how to gently hold their own pain. From this insight, compassion arose in place of resentment. The wish to heal blossomed instead of the urge to retaliate or run away. This is the meaning when the teacher speaks of healing that touches both the future and the past. When we transform our habits with mindfulness and compassion, we not only prevent those seeds from passing on to the next generation, but in a mysterious way, we also offer healing to our ancestors, those who bore the same suffering without ever knowing how to transform it. Every moment of deep listening, whether to ourselves or to another, generates merit, a wholesome energy that radiates far beyond what we can see or measure. Each time we choose understanding over reaction, compassion over judgment, call us home to our true dwelling. One mindful step can become a revolutionary act of freedom. One humble cup of tea can open the door into profound peace. There is a sound that can bring us back, even when the mind is scattered, even when the heart feels heavy. It is not a mystical vibration requiring long training or special technique. Quite simply, it is the sound of the bell. When touched with mindfulness, it becomes a gateway to deep transformation. In sanghas across the world, the bell is not merely a signal of time. It is regarded as the voice of the Buddha, inviting each one to return to their true home in the present moment. No religious belief is required, only the recognition that within us already lives the capacity for wakefulness, peace, and vibrant life here and now. Thus, inviting the bell is not simply producing a sound, but a sacred act. The bell-keeper does not strike in haste. First they sit quietly, breathe mindfully, gather the wandering mind, calm body and heart, and return fully to the present. This is not an outer ritual, but the very essence of the practice. For the quality of presence permeates each sound and is transmitted to all who listen. While breathing, they silently recite, body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of this bell. May all who hear it awaken and be free from fear and sorrow. Thus the bell is not just vibration in the air. It is a gesture of care, a wish of peace offered to all beings. Looking deeply, we see this as a model for every action in life. Before beginning a conversation, before sharing a meal, before starting work, if we pause, gather our mind, and plant a wholesome intention, then each small act becomes an offering of our best self to the world. After centering, the bell keeper does not sound the full bell immediately. They first invite a half sound, a gentle note to let everyone know a mindful bell is about to be heard. This is not mere courtesy, but a way to give mindfulness a chance to bloom. When that preparatory sound arises throughout the Sangha, conversations naturally quiet. Fullness, and then the living practice begins. Breathing mindfully, listening deeply. We do not listen only with our ears, but receive the sound with our whole being, allowing it to anchor our attention. Traditionally, with each in-breath, we silently recite, listening, listening. And with each out-breath, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. But what is this true home? It is not a point on a map, nor a particular house. Our true home is the state of complete presence, vibrant and whole, dwelling in the miracle of this very moment. Recall the last time you felt truly at home. It may not have been inside a building, but perhaps while holding a sleeping child, walking in nature, or quietly sharing presence with a loved one. Perhaps it was when you were fully immersed in a task, losing all sense of time and self. That feeling of peace, completeness, and rightness, that is your true home, and it is always available in every moment, whenever you remember to return. The miracle of this practice is that it trains body and mind to link sound with the return to peace. After a time of practice, many discover that any sound can become a bell of mindfulness. The ringing of church bells, the ticking of a clock, even the tone of a telephone. Instead of being pulled away by sound, we use it as a path of return to stillness. A beautiful application of this is when the phone rings. Instead of rushing to answer at the very first tone, we let it ring. Breathe 3 deep breaths, and only then gently pick it up. We remind ourselves, listening, listening. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. From that place of calm presence, we respond rather than react. And the person on the other end of the line can feel this quality of stillness, even if they cannot name why the conversation feels so different. Before making a call, we can also practice as the bell keeper does, pausing, breathing mindfully, and setting an intention for what we wish to transmit. Silently, we may whisper. A word can travel 1,000 miles. Supportive space in daily life. Simply set a soft chime on your phone to sound a few times each day. Each time it rings, pause and ask, "Where's my mind now?" Often, you will notice it has run into yesterday or tomorrow, caught in plans or memories. The bell helps you gently guide the mind back to the present. This return is not just a beautiful practice, it is the very foundation of touching the most miraculous moment of our life. When asked whether the most beautiful moment of life has arrived, most will say they are still waiting. Waiting for love, for achievement, for retirement, or for all problems to vanish. Yet this way of seeing ensures that the miraculous moment will never come. For there will always be another goal, another obstacle. The Dharma of the Buddha offers the opposite invitation. You can make this very moment the most miraculous, not by changing external conditions, but by being wholly awake to what is here. When we are truly present, we touch the wonder of life, that we are breathing. The heart still beats, eyes still see, ears still hear. This does not mean denying suffering or forcing ourselves into gratitude when life is hard. It simply means recognizing that even in difficulty, small miracles are present, if we are awake enough to notice. sunlight filtering through a window, the kind smile of a stranger, the wondrous functioning of the body that keeps us alive. These small miracles are always here, but we miss them when the mind is elsewhere. Practicing with the bell and the breath is like training the muscle of mindfulness, a muscle most never knew they had. And perhaps the greatest transformation of this practice is a new definition of home. In a restless, mobile world, many feel rootless, without refuge. But our true home is not a location. It is the capacity to be present, awake, and at peace with whatever is unfolding. That home is always within you, wherever you may be, in whatever conditions. Whether in a palace or a prison, beside a loved one or in solitude, that home remains open. This understanding was confirmed by a teacher who lived 38 years in exile, unable to return to his homeland. In the early years, he often dreamed of breathing out. I know this is a wonderful moment. The importance does not lie in the words, but in the intention we plant. It is the commitment to use the breath as a doorway, returning us to presence and peace, that is essential. This is also the beginning of what is called formless meditation, carrying the quality of mindfulness cultivated on the cushion into every ordinary act. The sound of water while washing dishes becomes a bell of mindfulness. The whistle of a kettle becomes a call to return. The rhythm of footsteps on a stone path becomes the beat that guides us back to the body. Gradually, we will need fewer external cues. Stopping and returning to the present becomes as natural as the stillness of a tree, the solidity of a mountain, the vastness of the sky. This does not make us passive or dull. It gives us the strength to act from a stable foundation in the present. Actions born from this place will be lighter, less strained, and more effective. Each time we pause to listen deeply, we are watering the seed of mindfulness within. Each time we choose to return to the breath, we open the door to peace in that very moment. There is a profound truth that most of us spend our lives chasing, yet so often overlook. We believe that peace, belonging, and true fulfillment can only be found somewhere out there, in an ideal relationship, a dream home, a perfect career, or in the memory of a place where once we felt safe and happy. But what if all that we have been taught about the true home is but an illusion? There was once a teacher who tasted this very truth. During the long years when his homeland was engulfed in war, he set out for the West, intending to stay only a few months. Yet as the voice of peace was rejected by both sides, the path home was closed before him. He fell into exile, cut off from everything familiar. Though steeped in profound knowledge of the Dharma, he still had to face emptiness, loss, and longing. Night after night in his dreams, he returned to the green hills and the old temple. Each time as he drew near, joy overflowed, only to have the dream dissolve. A pain. He could live fully where he was, and from that ground of presence, compassion blossomed, even for those who had cast him into exile. This lesson of the true home is not only for him. It is a light shining into our own lives. How many times have we thought we were in the wrong place, with the wrong people, in the wrong circumstance? How much energy have we wasted chasing happiness in some distant tomorrow? The simple practice reminds us, breathing in, I have arrived. Breathing out, I am home. There is no need to wait for anything more. In this very moment, we are already enough. Whether stuck in traffic or waiting in a crowded line, we can always return to the breath and there touch the wholeness of presence. The past is only memory, and with mindfulness we can transform our relationship to it. The future is only imagination. Its quality is woven from the choices we make right now. This is freedom. This is the true home. That teacher always dreamed of one day returning to teach monks, nuns, and lay people, to speak with artists and young people about building a peaceful society. But if the road home was blocked, he did not need to suffer. Wherever he was, he could still meet people from all corners of the earth, share, listen, and plant seeds of peace. True happiness does not depend on reaching external goals. We can learn to find fulfillment and meaning right where life has placed us. When we dwell in the present moment, a new doorway opens. We discover that this moment already holds everything we need. Not everything we desire, but enough to continue, enough to respond with wisdom and compassion. Peace, in its deepest nature, has never been absent. It is our very essence, not a possession to be lost, nor something that suffering can ever destroy. From this understanding, even the way we see travel and movement changes. We no longer try to flee the present. When we journey far, we do so with gratitude and presence, not to escape ourselves, nor to expect salvation elsewhere. In that presence, love grows freer. For our warriors, not warriors of violence, but of love. This is the story of a beautiful Southeast Asian country torn apart by forces its people never chose. Foreign powers drew borders, brought weapons, sowed ideologies, and turned neighbors into enemies. Brothers were forced to kill brothers, fighting for alien ideals imposed by distant powers, powers that would never taste the suffering of war themselves. In the midst of that turmoil, a group of monks and lay practitioners gave rise to a movement, bearing a message so simple that even a child could understand, yet powerful enough to make those in power tremble. Do not shoot your own brothers. It was not a political slogan, nor a call to side with one faction against another. It was a gentle reminder. The one standing before us is not an enemy, but a brother, a sister, a being of the same blood and breath. That message touched the hearts of many, parents who wished only for their children to grow up without fear, elders who remembered the days of harvesting together, when no one cared who belonged to which side, students who dreamed of a society of beauty rather than one scarred by destruction. And yet, such a voice threatened the interests of those who depended on war to survive. Arms dealers, politicians, powers that fed on violence, all had no wish for war to end. In such a climate, the most dangerous being was the one who dared to stand without taking sides, who dared to recognize humanity in every person, even in those labeled as the enemy. Leading that peace movement was a young monk who had established a university, founded a school for social service, and named his path Engaged Buddhism, a way of bringing ancient wisdom to the challenges of the modern world. In those years, there were monks and young people who chose to offer their very lives as a wake-up call to the world. These were not acts of despair, nor of self-destruction, but the deepest expression of love, offering one's body to summon humanity to awaken. On a June morning in 1963, after days of quiet meditation, Venerable Thich Quang Duc sat down at a busy crossroads in the capital. He had bid farewell to his ones, such as Sister Chun Kong and her close companion, Sister Nyet Chi Mai. Together, they cared for orphans, for victims of war, and explored ways to bring the teachings of compassion into daily life. When Sister Nyet Chi Mai chose to offer her body, it was not an impulsive act, but the fruit of deep contemplation and dialogue within her spiritual community. Before leaving, she wrote many letters to leaders of both sides, to religious figures, to friends near and far, all carrying a single plea: end the killing. Choose the path of dialogue and reconciliation. When news of her passing reached her teacher in New York, the pain tore his heart. A gifted student, a dear sister of the Dharma, had departed. And yet, in her final letter, she urged him not to sink into despair, for her act was not destruction, but an offering of great love for life itself. From then on, the teacher began to write and to speak more earnestly of this truth. Violence only breeds more violence. Hatred only gives rise to more hatred. The cycle of suffering can be broken only by love. That message crossed beyond the borders of his homeland, spreading throughout the world, touching the hearts of those who struggled for justice and human dignity, including Martin Luther King. In one letter, the teacher spoke of the spirit of such sacrifices, comparing them to the offering of Christ on the cross, a suffering born to open the way for love. The letter moved Dr. King deeply. He wished to understand more about the teacher's vision of nonviolence. They sat together for hours, speaking of the connection between racism and militarism, of the spiritual roots of the struggle for social justice, and of the challenge of keeping a heart of compassion while standing face to face with violence. After that meeting, Dr. King publicly spoke out against the war. It was the moment when two great movements for human dignity met: the struggle for peace abroad and the struggle for civil rights within the nation became one shared effort. The teacher said, "From that day, their work could no longer be separate. One cannot oppose racism while supporting war, for both spring from the same delusion, that others are enemies rather than brothers and sisters." 2 years later, they met again. Dr. King invited from a profound spiritual vision. From Paris, the teacher and his companions opened a small office to give voice to the ordinary people, those who were never heard in the international press. The office was in a poor neighborhood, home mostly to Arab immigrants, a living symbol of solidarity with communities pushed to the margins. But words calling for peace was seen as a threat. Each time he applied for a visa to the US or the UK, the teacher was treated as a suspect. His message of reconciliation and brotherhood was considered more dangerous than the very weapons that were destroying his homeland. Peace activists were watched, their communications cut off, their journeys obstructed, while arms dealers roamed freely. Once, on a flight from Tokyo to Paris with a layover in Seattle, he was detained at the airport. His passport was confiscated, and he was locked in a cold room plastered with wanted posters. No explanation. No way to make contact. Only a heavy silence. In that moment, he understood. In a world intoxicated by war, to speak of peace is perilous. And yet, through those ordeals, he did not see an enemy. He realized that those who imprisoned him, those who tried to silence the message of peace, were themselves bound by fear and delusion. They were terrified that brotherhood and reconciliation might shake the foundations of power. They were prisoners of their own fear, and like all prisoners, they deserved compassion more than condemnation. This insight did not make him passive. On the contrary, it gave him greater strength on the path of peace. For now, he was no longer driven by anger or resentment, but guided by compassion. The peace movement he joined was the voice of the silent majority, the ones who bore the weight of war's suffering yet were never given a place to express their pain. During that time, he wrote many poems, calling them peace poems rather than anti-war poems. Yet both sides rejected them. The North condemned them. The South confiscated them. He came to see that walking the path of peace means being ready to be misunderstood, to be refused. It means accepting that many will label you ground of his deepest service. This is the supreme teaching of a peacemaker. The way we see the enemy determines everything. And this teaching is not reserved for the battlefield. It seeps into the fabric of daily life. A family member who constantly criticizes us, a colleague who takes credit, a neighbor who blasts loud music, a politician we oppose. None of them are truly the enemy. They are teachers, offering us the chance to practice patience and compassion. This does not mean tolerating or condoning abuse. It means responding with wisdom instead of violence, with compassion instead of hatred. Perhaps they will not change, but at the very least, we will not add more hatred to a world already too burdened by it. And sometimes, the very refusal to feed hatred opens the door to unexpected transformation. On the path of practice, we learn how to transform anger, not by suppressing it, nor by unleashing it in harmful ways, but by establishing an entirely new relationship with this energy, so that it becomes a doorway into deeper self-understanding. There was once a boy who carried within himself a sacred promise, that when he grew up and had children, he would never repeat the harshness his father had shown him. In the past, whenever he fell and hurt himself, instead of being comforted, he was scolded. His wounds had not yet healed before fear scarred his young heart. So he vowed, "One day, if my child falls and gets hurt, I will not scold. I will run to embrace, to care, to heal with love." That flame of resolve lived in the boy like a lamp of hope, nourishing his wish to break the cycle of harsh reactions that had once caused him so much confusion and pain. His intention was pure and beautiful. One day, in the monastery grounds, as he lay resting, his sister and a little friend played on a rope hammock tied between two trees. Laughter rang out. The hammock swayed rhythmically. It was a scene of peace, filled with the innocence of childhood. But suddenly, an accident occurred. A little girl fell, was hurt, and burst into tears. In that instant, instead of running to embrace and soothe her, as he had once promised himself, he felt a wave of current flowing through generations. If he did not learn to recognize and transform it, he would pass it on again to his children and their children. From that insight, he no longer saw himself and his father as perpetrator and victim, but as fellow sufferers of the same stream of energy that Buddhism calls habit energy. These patterns of reaction had been sown and transmitted from generation to generation, unconsciously flowing, until someone, awake enough, could stop. And when the seed of that practice sprouted in his heart, something miraculous unfolded. The anger and resentment toward his father melted away, like ice dissolving beneath the spring sun. In their place arose a deep yearning to return, to tell his father, "I see that within me flows the same energy as within you. I wish for us to learn together how to care for it and transform it." This is the practice of mindfulness of anger, a path of liberation, not only for one individual, but for an entire lineage, breaking free from the cycles of inherited suffering. According to Buddhist insight, our consciousness is like a vast lake with many depths. On the surface lies the conscious mind, where perceptions and immediate reactions take place. But beneath, in the storehouse consciousness, seeds of memories and emotions have long been sown. The first time his father lost his temper when he needed comfort, a seed of fear fell into that storehouse. With each repetition, the seed grew stronger, until the right conditions brought it up again as anger. Yet in that same storehouse are not only seeds of anger, but also seeds of compassion, of understanding. When conditions are ripe, any of them may manifest as a mental formation. The question is not whether anger arises, but how we care for it when it does. The practice is to breathe and silently say to oneself, breathing in, I know anger is present in me. Breathing out, I embrace my anger with all the tenderness I can. Not to judge it, nor to push it away, but to hold it as a mother cradles her crying child. That mother does not rush to solve the problem. She simply holds her baby close. Her presence itself is medicine. So too, when anger arises, we need only whisper, hello, my anger. I am here for you.
Misunderstanding. Seeing that his father, too, was only carrying the ancestral habit energy and not intentionally trying to cause harm, his anger dissolved. In its place, space opened for a new response, one rooted in understanding and love instead of unconscious repetition. The practice of mindfulness of anger can be nourished in daily life. At the very first signs, the tightening of the jaw, the heat in the chest, the sharp thought arising in the mind, we can pause, breathe, and say, hello, my anger. I will take care of you. When we can embrace our own anger, we can also embrace the anger of others. We no longer fuel escalation, but become a point of peace, opening the door of transformation not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. The boy understood that healing can flow forward into the future and backward into the past. Each moment we choose to embrace anger with mindfulness rather than discharge it with violence, we contribute to the river of compassion for all humanity. And one day, each of us will face ourselves as that boy once did. With mindful breath and peaceful steps, we can touch the truth that changes everything. We and our ancestors, we and our parents, we and our children, all are part of the same stream. And in that very stream, the seeds of reconciliation and love can begin to bloom. He began to see what Buddhist psychology has long taught. The energy of anger in us is not truly ours. It is a current flowing through generations. His father's harsh reactions in childhood may themselves have been inherited from his grandfather and from the great-grandfathers before him, a long chain of people who never had the chance to learn how to tend their feelings, passing down strictness and temper as though they were natural responses to the pain of children. What made this realization transformative was not sorrow, but growing understanding. He saw his father too was only a victim of inherited patterns, just as he was. His father did not choose to be harsh, just as he did not choose to hold on to anger. Both were swept along in the wheel of suffering, the samsara of unconscious habit. Looking at his father with these eyes, a miracle happened as well. When we see that even conflicts which appear to divide us can become bridges of understanding, our hearts naturally give rise to compassion instead of judgment. We begin to look at colleagues, friends, and loved ones with different eyes. When someone is angry or harsh, we realize they are not only that person in this moment, but also the continuation of many layers of influence and unhealed wounds. This vision gives rise to patience and dissolves the impulse to oppose. Buddhist teaching reminds us, when we transform deep habit energies, we do not heal only ourselves in the present, but also touch the past and the future. Each time we breathe mindfully, recognizing anger without letting it command us, we create a pause, a space where anger can be embraced rather than drive our actions. This practice teaches a profound lesson. Responsibility and compassion can coexist. Those who hurt us still bear responsibility for their actions, yet at the same time, they are victims of forces beyond their control.
To see both truths is to uphold wise boundaries while opening the door to forgiveness and healing. The boy in the monastery understood that freedom did not lie in opposing his father, but in walking the path of practice together. He saw clearly, we are both the continuation of all that our ancestors have handed down, and also the origin of future generations. We hold the power to stop, to transform, and to pass on peace instead of suffering. The moment we recognize inherited patterns need not be a moment of despair. It can be the moment of liberation. A silent revolution begins, not with gunfire, not with shouting, but with breath, with steps, with awareness in the ordinary moments of daily life. It is the revolution of awakening, of returning to the miracle of life that is here and now. With each mindful breath, body and mind return to one another, becoming whole. And with each peaceful step, we walk not only for ourselves, but also for our father, our mother, our ancestors, and for generations past and yet to come. For they have never left us. They walk with us in every cell, in every heartbeat, in every habit seed. Each mindful step, each deep breath, experience, moving from one place to another becomes a doorway to the heavenly realm that sages call the Pure Land, Nirvana. This is not some distant world reached only after death, but the profound depth of reality itself, revealed the moment you are fully present. Even drinking a cup of tea becomes a Dharma gate. Before bringing the cup to your lips, you pause, breathe, and gather your scattered mind into the now. You look at the cup with fresh eyes, as though seeing for the first time its color, its warmth, the gentle steam rising. That simple attention brings you home to the present moment. By contrast, when you are lost in the past or chasing the future, swept away by thoughts and inner stories, you are not truly alive. You live only in the idea of your life, missing life itself as it unfolds. You forget the wonder of this body, forget the simple miracle of being alive upon a planet spinning through infinite space. This has deep implications for happiness. Most people chase some future condition, a perfect love, success, financial security, flawless health, and believe that only upon attaining it will they be happy. Yet this endless seeking means they never taste the joy already present. Happiness is always postponed, day after day. To dwell in the present does not mean passivity or resignation. On the contrary, when grounded in the peace already available, every action becomes more effective, because it arises from wisdom and love, not from fear or lack. Here, the revolutionary nature of mindfulness becomes clear. Each peaceful step, each mindful sip of tea, each conscious breath contributes to the collective reservoir of peace and wisdom for all beings. You become a living testimony of what it means to truly live. And this testimony radiates farther than any social campaign, because mindful presence can transform even the simplest acts. Washing dishes becomes the joy of cleanliness and order. Walking to the car becomes a chance to feel the body in space. Waiting in line or in traffic turns into a practice of peace instead of irritation. Such serene presence is revolutionary power in a society built on dissatisfaction and consumption. When you can delight in a simple room is beautiful, yet still limited. When many candles are lit together, the darkness recedes. This is the strength of collective practice, a sacred field of mindful energy. Perhaps you have felt this in the silence of a ceremony, when hundreds breathe together in shared pain and compassion. Or at a concert, when the crowd merges into one current of joy. That collective energy uplifts each person, reminding us that we are not alone on the path of transformation. Thus, in many practicing communities, there are ways to nurture this shared energy, such as eating together in silence. Not an awkward silence, but a rich silence where each person is fully present with the food and with one another. Even before eating, we pause and look at the food with fresh eyes, as if seeing for the first time the nourishment before us. A piece of bread is not only flour and water, but the essence of rain and sunlight, of soil and seed, of laboring hands and countless acts of love. Eating mindfully, we are no longer mere consumers but part of life itself, receiving nourishment from life. Chewing slowly, we taste sweetness. We feel the body receiving and transforming this gift. Most importantly, we chew only the bread, not the anxieties of tomorrow, not the resentments of yesterday. Otherwise, we suffer a kind of spiritual indigestion, unable to absorb the true nourishment that is here and now. When you learn to eat in mindfulness, supported by those who practice with you, you discover the profound meaning of being truly nourished. You chew only what is worthy of being chewed, the gifts of earth and sky that sustain the body, and you allow yourself to be nourished not only physically, but also spiritually. Mindfulness brings the mind home to what is happening, and through that, you recognize the brother sitting across from you, the sister by your side, are not merely companions at the table. They are you, and you are them, different expressions of the same awakened consciousness. Their full presence sustains your awareness, just as your mindfulness nourishes them. Together, you generate a powerful field of awareness.
Steadily, individual mindfulness and collective mindfulness cannot be separated. Your practice nourishes the community, and the community's energy strengthens and magnifies your own transformation. Like musicians in an orchestra, each must practice their part, but true beauty only arises when all come into harmony. In modern society, where many have been cut off from extended family and traditional community, loneliness, emptiness, and loss of meaning have spread widely. Much of depression, anxiety, and despair arises from this absence of true connection. To find or create even a small sangha can restore belonging and a sense of meaning that nourishes the soul. And to be infused with the collective energy of mindfulness, sometimes we need to open our hearts, to dare to reveal our vulnerability. Right there, a deep door of healing opens. Gradually, we see our own liberation cannot be separated from the liberation of all beings. The peace we cultivate no longer belongs only to us. It becomes part of the vast reservoir of wisdom and compassion that heals the world. There is a sacred temple within your own heart, containing everything needed for liberation from suffering. This is not a metaphor or a dream, but a spiritual reality dwelling within each human being. You do not need to travel far, nor spend years in training to enter this sanctuary. These energies are already alive in you, even before you know how to recognize them. They are the energies of the Buddha within you, the transformative and healing forces that can free you from every chain of the mind. The first door is called mindfulness, the foundation of all practice. Mindfulness is simply the capacity to know what is happening as it is happening. When breathing without mindfulness, we are easily swept away by unconscious habits, mechanical reactions, living as if in a dream. But when mindfulness shines, everything changes. You have seen this power in the stories told,
The young novice in the temple transformed inherited anger simply because mindfulness helped him recognize it. The teacher, far from his homeland, through mindfulness, distinguished between longing and attachment. With mindfulness, he realized that true home is not on a map, but in the quality of peaceful presence accessible anywhere. Yet mindfulness, steadily present with compassion, even when your own emotions are stirred. And wondrously, mindfulness and concentration nourish each other, like the two wings of a bird. From mindfulness and concentration, the third door opens: insight. Insight is not merely conceptual understanding or philosophy, but direct recognition in the present moment. Only this insight has the power to liberate, for it illuminates the delusions at the root of suffering. As the teacher realized, true homeland is not a place, but presence itself. This scene did not arise from reasoning, but blossomed naturally when the mind was calm and clear. Such insight cannot be forced nor rushed. It ripens like fruit on a tree. Therefore, you need not worry about whether your practice is right or enough. As long as you sincerely cultivate even one of the three energies, mindfulness, concentration, insight, all three will naturally grow together. When you attend to the breath, you are practicing mindfulness, sustaining concentration, and planting seeds of insight. When you take a mindful step, all three doors are opening. These three doors of liberation are always here, always open, always inviting. You do not need to wait for better conditions, for more time or greater knowledge. You only need to step through right now. Right in this very moment, you can breathe in mindfulness and awaken the three precious energies at once. Simply pay attention to what is happening. Sustain that attention with a gentle concentration and open your heart to the world. This is the ultimate teaching. Liberation is not a faraway destination, but a reality available now. The temple of freedom has always been within your heart, already complete with everything needed for perfect peace. The three doors are always open. The path is always here, and you are always invited to return to the truth of your own being. As this gentle journey comes to its close, pause for a while to sense what has shifted within you during these hours. Listen to your breath. Feel the spaciousness inside. Through stories of courage and quiet transformation, you have seen that promise fulfilled. You have witnessed a young boy discover that inherited anger was not a prison, but a doorway. Teeth, you can be wholly at home in your body. When preparing a cup of tea or coffee, you can make it a ritual of gratitude to the earth and sky. When looking into the mirror, you can offer yourself compassion as tenderly as you would to a beloved friend. These small shifts in awareness and intention gradually transform your entire way of living. Everyday challenges, traffic jams, difficult colleagues, sudden broken plans become opportunities to practice turning reaction into wisdom. Instead of judging them as obstacles to happiness, you can pause, breathe, and see that each hardship opens a door to patience, understanding, and compassion. The insights of tonight can also free you from ancestral patterns. You are no longer a victim of the past, nor bound to repeat the mistakes of generations before. You are a mindful link in the chain of transmission, capable of transforming what has been handed down. You can cradle the deepest roots of your identity with love, as a mother holds a crying child. The power of presence is not confined to the meditation hall. It can be planted right in your daily relationships, even with those who do not walk a spiritual path. Through wholehearted presence, you create small communities of awakening. Within your family, with friends, or even with a stranger you meet by chance. You need no special conditions, no long retreats to touch this freedom. Transformation unfolds slowly and gently, like a seed growing in fertile soil. You do not need to be perfect, nor avoid every mistake. All that is needed is to return to awareness each time you notice you have forgotten. Each return is already a victory. Every mindful moment not only brings healing to yourself, but also contributes to the healing of the world. Anyone who responds to hatred with love, to fear with courage, to division with the recognition of our shared humanity, is helping to build the world we have always dreamed of. The kingdom of peace is not out of reach. It is present in every act of kindness and awareness. Even sleep can become a practice. Instead of drifting into dreams with a restless,
bring countless opportunities to practice, to live these teachings fully, and to help heal the world that longs for peace. Good night, dear friend. May you awaken refreshed, renewed, and overflowing with love.